But one of the champions that helped us very much was Assemblymember Gail Pellerin, and I would like to introduce her now.
Good morning. First, I want to thank Senator Shannon Grove for her leadership on addressing human trafficking, along with my colleague, Assemblymember Megan Dolly, who authored the resolution in the Assembly last year and is unable to be here today. Thank all of you for being in attendance at an 8 a.m. press conference and for helping us highlight this important work being done by this anti-trafficking coalition. I'm grateful to have the partnership of my colleagues in the Assembly and the Senate in putting this press conference together to call attention to the important work of Rising Worldwide, Three Strands Global Foundation, the Jenna McKay Foundation, and to focus on the experience of survivors of human trafficking. I'm also very grateful for the California Trucking Association and the California Highway Patrol for their partnership in advocating against trafficking and supporting survivors. Human trafficking is an affront to human dignity, and we must talk about this horrific crime impacting people locally and globally. I'm going to cut my remarks a little short here because I want us all to hear from our survivor. But I do want to note that we must pay attention to the fact that survivors are disproportionately racial and ethnic minorities, indigenous populations, women and girls, members of the LGBTQ+ community, and migrants. They are extremely vulnerable to exploitation due to social, legal, and cultural marginalization. Unfortunately, oftentimes those who are being trafficked are often afraid to come forward and to get the help that they need because they may be threatened with violence and or fear retribution. I'm proud to have partnered with a survivor of human trafficking. She's a human trafficking leader, Jess Torres, in crafting Assembly Concurrent Resolution 125, which declares January as Human Trafficking Awareness Month. Jess is an inspiration. They are a leader in the Safe and Sound program at Rising Worldwide, which we believe is the first survivor-led training for schools and businesses to teach us how to recognize and combat human trafficking. It is my honor to introduce them today. Jess.
Thank you so much, Gail. I'd like to start off by saying that this conversation is an offering of love to all of us living at multiple margins between spaces of recognition and erasure, who desperately need an invitation to dream and to build and to feel love again as slowly and imperfectly as it comes. In those dreams, none of our bodies and lives are disposable. In this future, we are all free. I'd like to dedicate this speech to Terriana Evans, my mentee. Terriana was a survivor of child sex trafficking who left this earth August 2023. She was battling debilitating depression, anxiety, complex post-traumatic stress disorder, and was not provided the adequate resources to navigate her suffering, leaving behind a small toddler. Terriana should be alive today. My ancestors knew that making sure that folks had what they needed was the only way to take care of one another, that this could only be done together. My ancestors knew the power of vulnerability and how to hold each other in dignity. My ancestors knew joy. They made mistakes and meditated on who they wanted to be in community and became those people. After 24 years of U.S. anti-trafficking policy and billions of dollars spent, my survivor community still does not have many of their basic emergency and or long-term recovery needs met. We have to be each other's loan offices, therapists, transportation, resource and housing navigators, suicide prevention, jail support, and accountability pods. Those lucky enough to have these networks. Those without often fall back into experiences of exploitation, or even worse, they are murdered or they die. A thought I often grapple with is, are we really underserved, Or are we just the acceptable collateral damage of a society that doesn't believe that we are worth the investment? But I want to believe, and I want to live in a world where survivors are no longer struggling to have their fundamental needs met, because meeting people's basic needs is the only way to end the drivers and the vulnerabilities that lead to trafficking. I want to live in a world where survivors are at the forefront of all anti-trafficking efforts. Which brings me to my work at Rising Worldwide. In the 15 years I've been involved in anti-trafficking movement, I've never felt more a part of a caring and loving community. At Rising, survivors create programs for other survivors. Survivors created the Rising Wellness Funds. These funds help to support survivors in moments of crisis and allow us to invest in one another's well-being. It is rooted in the belief that we all deserve care, that we can build a community that refuses to abandon its people, where systemic struggles are solved collectively. A survivor created a professional development program for survivor leaders, and another survivor created Rising Safe and Sound, a human trafficking prevention program for youth, educators, and community members. These workshops are led by survivors and implemented in California schools. We teach youth what we wish we knew when we were younger, because we cannot end trafficking after it happens, and because prevention is the best intervention. For Terriana, for myself, for all human trafficking survivors, I implore you to consider these thoughts shared here today, to allow them to open your hearts and to live there, to join me in expressing gratitude for all the work that has been done, and to commit to the infinite responsibility to come for you, for your children, and for our shared future. Thank you.